It is your Classic Metal Show right here on the ClassicMetalShow.com. That is Dimino featuring Frank Dimino, formerly of Angel, with his latest release, a solo album with Old Habits Die Hard. And the name of that tune there is called Never Again. It sort of got a rock and roll all night sound to the guitars there with a Biff Byford vocal, I think. So maybe a guy who can kind of agree or disagree with me is the one and only Frank Dimino. Welcome back to the Classic Metal Show, Frank.
It's nice to be here. It's interesting that you say that. I think when it comes to songs, everyone hears things and has their own take on stuff, and that's kind of interesting. It's kind of nice to hear stuff like that. But when Oz and I first wrote that song, Oz said, when I was screwing around with that riff, and I thought, well, I was thinking kind of like an Angel mode, like an Angel song, and that's how we came up. He said to me after that, he said, wouldn't it be great if we could get Punky to play on that? And I said, yeah, I don't think that would be a problem. I'll call Punky and ask him. And that's how Punky ended up playing on that tune. So.
Sure. Well, it does sort of have like that whole rock and roll all night feel, like that classic Kiss sound. And obviously, you guys shared the same record label back in the day. You were the antithesis to Kiss. You were the guys in white while they were the guys in black.
Yes, that's true.
So,
but only in color, I guess.
Yeah, absolutely.
Really the antithesis, yeah.
Sure, absolutely.
Yeah, those were crazy days back in those days.
No, it was crazy nights, my friend. Crazy nights.
Yeah. You are true. Yes, that is true. You're right.
Well, Frank, you've been around a long time. I mean, your vocals are just as strong as ever. I mean, after 40 years in the business, you're still out there just howling and doing what it is that you do best. And you seem to never stop, regardless of the state of the music business these days. And you find yourself not only recording a new solo record, but I guess you're working in Vegas at the Rock Vault as well.
Oh yeah, I did do a few shows at the Rock Vault, and I have been working at the Rock and Roll Fantasy Camp as well. So I mean, I'm always doing something. I'm always trying to keep myself busy, and I teach. I also have a local band out here with Oz Fox from Stryper. They're called Vinyl Tattoo. That we do a lot of classic stuff. We do some Angel, we do some Stryper, and we do a lot of songs that we like. Some of the bands that I toured with Angel and stuff. So yeah, always looking to have some fun. The one thing I've always enjoyed is singing. So I always find ways to do that.
Sure. Well, this new solo release that you have here, Old Habits Die Hard, I mean, it definitely showcases your vocal abilities, and they have not diminished at all over the decades. I mean, you're still just as strong as ever. So I need to ask you, Frank, Frontiers Records is the champion of what we call hard melodic or classic metal, if you will, and they've helped keep bands and artists such as yourself in the limelight and support you guys and give you some kind of a recording budget and distribution for your music and whatnot.
They really have,
And the question I have, and I'm talking about the state of the music industry, does it make sense to make a full album these days? And it's not a criticism in any way, shape, or form, because I'm an old school guy like you, and I love a full CD. But the business, does the business make sense to record a full CD these days?
The business is so upside down that I don't really know what the answer to that is, other than to do what I'm most comfortable in and what I most relate to, and that's doing a full album. The thought process behind that, and it's the thought process I had when I first started the solo album, is to take you on an adventure, and to keep you in that same frame of mind. It's like when I was younger and I got my first Beatle album, when I first got my first Zeppelin album, I remember looking at that album cover, looking at every inch of that album cover as I was listening to it. and it was kind of taking you on that whole journey. So it's like, it's the only way I kind of relate to doing anything when you're recording. So the thought of doing anything less than that would be not very fulfilling to me. You know, I kind of like the thought of doing 12 songs to take you. It gives you enough time to take you on that journey and to take you on different curves and different roads.
Sure.
You know?
Well, in this day and age, multimedia, social media is the way that things are promoted, because obviously, again, this is no, criticism of you as an artist, but today's commercial outlets via the FM radio or even satellite radio, they're not going to be playing Frank Dimino solo, unfortunately.
No.
So you're going to only find it on internet outlets like the Classic Metal Show, or perhaps outlets like Slacker or Spotify or something like that to discover that you have a new CD out. And obviously, you have spent the money to do a music video for Rockin' in the City, which is very cool. So what are your thoughts on releasing songs like one every couple of months, accompanied by maybe a video, and maybe by the end of the year, the whole CD is released, and then you release it as a full CD? You know what I mean?
It's an interesting thought. There's a number of ways of doing stuff like that. I'll have to keep that in mind because I do have another album to do. So maybe I'll keep that in mind.
Yeah, well, my thought here is because everybody's so fickle, and because the what do you want to call the frame of consciousness, everybody kind of just forgets things very quickly. If you kind of keep yourself in the forefront by releasing something new every 10 weeks or so, and accompany it with something to catch your eye to, that they might keep you in mind and go, you know what, by the end of the year, I'm going to have a whole CD.
Yeah, it's crazy. When I think about, with Angel, when we did our first album, it changed from when we did our first album. From the first album to the fourth album, everything changed so much. Even back then, when we did our first album, they were playing cuts on FM stations like Long Time, and they weren't afraid to play The Tower. There was nothing on that album that was like short and poppy enough to be played, especially nowadays. But by the time we got to the fourth album by White Hot, there was all that AOR stuff was all gone. It changed. It was changing so abruptly to more. FM was starting to become AM, and then I thought when satellite radio came, I thought, well, maybe now it's going to go back to what it was, and it did briefly for a short amount of time, and then all of a sudden they were playing the same cuts every day. That you instead of delving deeply into albums, they were playing the same songs, the same thing that FM was doing. So it's really become kind of a weird kind of thing now. I put a new album out and there's no place to play it.
Sure, absolutely. Well, Frank, I've been doing this classic metal show for 20 years this year, and we're not sponsored. I refuse to take sponsorship dime, even though it's been offered many times. And the reason behind it is I don't want to be a slave to the master, if you know what I mean. So I
know exactly what you mean. I applaud you for that.
So that's the reason I'm self-funded. I've been self-funded since day one, and I have literally, thousands upon thousands of fans and listeners all over the world, and I play what I want. I have artists like you on the show because I want to, and nobody controls my destiny or the Classic Metal Show. So the reason you're here tonight, Frank, is because we believe in artists like you, and we enjoy your music, and you'll hear Frank Dimino solo on the Classic Metal Show.
That's very much appreciated by me. Let me tell you, I remember a long time ago when someone said that if you let me do my own radio show, without sponsors, without anybody, interfering, I guarantee you it'll be a great show. But I don't know, I don't know if I'd be able to ever put it on a station because, like you said, you become a slave to the sponsors, and all of a sudden things change so quickly. So
sure.
I applaud you for doing that. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it's because I believe in what we do, and I believe in what guys like you do. So that's why I do it. Since anyway, I appreciate what you do, Frank, and I'm glad you stick around as long as you have. Now, I talked briefly with you before the interview that you and my good friend Bob Nalbandian, documentarian extraordinaire, is been putting together these documentaries. He released Inside Metal, the rise of the early LA metal scene last year, and you were a prominent part of that. And he's going to be releasing the second part of that here, I believe, in May or June of this year. And then he's working on the thrash scene. Now, did you get a part in the second portion that's going to be released here soon?
No, I didn't. But that's okay because the first one was a lot of fun. Yeah.
Now, what is your thoughts?
No, I didn't.
What is your thoughts about a independent film guy like a Bob Nalbandian, who's obviously he's being funded by a guy who believes in this kind of a thing, and he includes artists such as yourself and a lot of guys from the 70s, the mid 70s into the early 80s. And there seems to be a lot of interest in that as far as music fans are concerned. So what was your take on that whole documentary, and were you happy with the final product?
Yeah, I'm very happy with it. I mean, I think when someone has a vision of doing things, the only way to do it is to do it independently like that. Because what happens is when you start to have other people involved in it, and especially with sponsorship and stuff, it starts to lead to different areas, and then of course the things come up like, oh well, we don't know that person well enough. You got to get someone that everyone knows. Well, everyone sees those people on lots of things, so it's nice to have someone that goes into really kind of the belly of the rock and roll scene and talks to people that were really in the middle of all that stuff. So yeah, I thought it was a great idea, and I really enjoyed doing it.
Sure. Now, did you like the final cut? Did you see the final cut, and were you happy with the way it came out?
Yeah, I was happy with it, of course. Yeah, I thought he did a great job. Yeah.
Sure, absolutely. Well, Frank, we mentioned earlier that you're involved with other things. You mentioned your teaching in the rock and roll camp, and the raiding the rock vault and things like that. What do you think is driving the interest in a big Vegas production such as Raiding the Rock Vault? Because I know a lot of your contemporaries participate in that, be it like a Paul Shortino or a Howard Leese or people who've been involved with the music business for decades, and it seems to be a very big attraction in Las Vegas. So, what do you think drives that?
I think now that a lot of the people that used to go to those concerts now are older, and they're coming to Vegas. So for them, it's a great little thing to have, to come to see. It's like going to a concert, because people that age don't really go to that many concerts anymore. So they come out here, and all of a sudden it's like a controlled environment, and it's a show. So it's I think people that go to see it are really enthused by it. They're happy to see it.
Sure, absolutely. Well, speaking of mass amounts of people, gathering to see shows and whatnot, one of the things that's kind of become popular in the last, say, 5 or 6 years are these rock cruises. I'm sure you're well aware of them, where the people book these cruises and they're out on a boat for 4 or 5 days, and they get to see a lot of different bands, perform exclusively on this cruise. What's your thoughts on that?
Look, anytime you can see a band that you like, and anytime as a musician you can play to people that are enjoying your music, it's a win-win situation. I haven't been on any of those cruises. Hopefully, we'll see if we can line some up so that I can do some of those. But yeah, I mean, going to see bands that you like it's always great fun. I mean, the days when I saw Zeppelin, when I saw the Beatles, all that stuff, it was those days are always etched in your memory. So it's always fun, and now it seems to be a lot of those things are so much more intimate now. So I think it's a great thing.
Sure, absolutely. Well, let's swing things back around to your CD here. You worked with a lot of great folks. You mentioned Oz Fox of Stryper, and you had some cameo performances from different people, such as Eddie Ojeda from Twisted Sister, and Ricky Medlock of Lynyrd Skynyrd, and people like that. That perform on your CD. Now, what do you intend on doing where this CD is concerned and live performances are concerned? Do you intend on, is this just a studio project for you, or is this something you would actually like to kind of take on the road? I know touring is very difficult these days. Sometimes it's a win. Sometimes you win, sometimes you lose, But for Frank Dimino, where does this fit in your future plans? Do you plan on performing this live somewhere, or is this just a satisfactory thing that you recorded and put down music that you had in your head?
Yeah, well, that's how I first went about it. But for me, I really like performing. I really enjoy singing and playing to an audience. So. I'd like to do some dates with it. I think it would be fun to do those songs live. I think they really jump out. So I don't know yet as far as a band. I can always take Vinyl Tattoo out, which is myself, Oz, Scotty Coogan, he's now on the road with Ace, playing with Ace Frehley's band, and JP Michaels on bass. So. I was thinking about using the guys from Meatloaf as well when they're free. They played on the album. So, there's a number of ways I can go with this. Right now, I just like to put some dates together and then think about who to use for the live show.
Sure, absolutely. Well, that was going to be kind of my next question, as being that you had some notable names play with you on the CD, and they have their own obligations with their own bands and their own projects. You would definitely have to find, a band that could actually, leave home or, break away to do some live shows with you and whatnot. So, do you have anything lined up, or is this still something in the planning phase for you?
Right now, it's still in the planning stages. We're trying to figure out whether we're going to do some festivals or what's available right now. So I'm looking at that, and when I get all those things that are available, then I'll have to make a decision on who to use. Right now, I don't know anyone's availability right now because I don't have any dates. So once I get the dates together, then I'll know who's available and who I can use.
Sure. So. Well, let me ask you something, Frank. Since you're probably since you are the face of the band Angel, what is your thoughts on one original member of a legendary band putting together a whole new lineup and calling it by the name of the band that they were known or associated with? What's your thoughts on that?
I don't have a whole lot of thoughts on that, but here's the deal. Whenever you can do dates and whenever you can play to people, it's always a good thing. You know what I mean? I think if you're talking about Angel, I think the only way Angel at this point would do any shows, or whether it be one show or 10 shows, it would have to be the five of us, all five of us. And I think we've all talked about that enough now between all of us, as far as we're all of us being in agreement that if we do an Angel show, it's either the five of us or we won't do the show. It is interesting that we are accepting this award on May 15th over here for the Las Vegas Rocks Magazine Award I can't remember what we're getting the award for. I think it's for the I can't remember the names of the awards anymore. But it'll be the first time the five of us are together since probably 81, 82. So I think we'll have a lot of catching up to do.
Sure.
I think it's for the Glam Award, maybe something like that. I'm not sure. Glam classic glam band or something like that. I forget the exact name of the award, but it'll be fun for the five of us to get together and just to talk, just to be with each other once again. So,
sure, absolutely.
So I'm looking forward to that.
Well, good for you. I appreciated that answer, as opposed to, say, the drummer of a band taking the name and putting together a whole new lineup and going out as that band.
Yeah. It is kind of crazy, isn't it?
It is crazy.
It would be better to but look, I'm not gonna say what you should and what you shouldn't do. I mean, it'd be nice to say so and so from here, and then playing the music.
Sure.
So to give you a little bit better idea of what's happening with it. But I don't know. People, some people it doesn't bother some people. I guess I don't know.
Right. Absolutely. Well, Frank, this new CD is a stellar representation of your, as I said, your abilities, and it's a good in your face, just a good fast paced, fast tempo type release. It's a good energy disc. I was out running to it today, and it's
cool.
It's a good it kind of kicks you in the ass, and I like hearing that.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that.
So is there anything about this new release that you want to tell us about, or point out to the fans that that maybe you're especially proud of, something specific about it?
Well, I think with this album, the way I went about it was a little bit differently. It's the first time that I've done a solo project, and it's the first time I've done it without a band. So when my approach on this album was the song. So I didn't have to write to a specific genre. I just thought about writing songs, good songs. So whenever I wrote with Jeff, my friend Jeff Labansky, or with Oz, the approach was always like, okay, let's just write a song. We're going about, because in the beginning it was like, okay, what direction should we start writing in? And I thought, let's throw out direction. Okay, I don't care what direction we're in. We don't have to worry about that. Let's just start writing some songs that we like. So that's what we did. We went ahead and just wrote and chose the songs that we felt were the best ones that we wrote, and that's what I used on the album. And as far as the guest stars, everything happened very organically for me. It wasn't a thought of having different people play on the album. I thought I was covered with guitars with Oz, Paul Crook, and Jeff Labansky to play, and of course Pat Thrall, who was involved from the beginning, had said to me, he said, "Listen, I'd love to play on the album." He said, "If you have anything that you want me to do, just let me know. I'd be more than happy to play." So I thought I was completely covered as far as guitars, and what happened was it just kind of like went in the way of that. Eddie was here in town at the time when we were recording, and he came down to the studio, and we asked if he wanted to play on it. He said, "Yeah, sure. Let me listen to it." So we played on some stuff. We gave him a track. He took it home, came back down, and put a solo on it. As far as with Ricky, what happened with Ricky is Paul and I were talking about putting a slide, and my thoughts were that song really needed a slide guitar on it, and we just thought, well, the best person that could do this would be Ricky. So we had Ken Ciancimino, who was the executive producer on the album. really close friends with Ricky, called him up and asked him if he could wedge it in his schedule. And he said, well, send me the track. So we sent him the track, and within a day or two, he put a great slide solo on it. So everything kind of happened so organically for me. My thought process wasn't, let me do an album and I'm going to have different people play solos on it. It wasn't that wasn't the thought process. It just kind of happened that way. And it's always kind of nice when things happen kind of organically like that. So.
Sure. Absolutely. And it's also good to have friends in the business that are willing to help out and contribute.
Yeah, that's another thing too. Is like it wasn't something where it was a forced thing. It was more like, hey, would you like to contribute? Would you like to play on this one? So it was all really really great. It was nice the way it came about.
Sure.
Yeah.
So, Frank, let me ask you, what is the secret to your youthful appearance and longevity?
Yeah, I don't know. I took vocal lessons. Probably starting at 9 years old. So, I took vocal lessons for many years when I was young, and I've always kind of like approached it. In singing, trying to sing without damaging, So it's always been my approach to sing correctly, to try and sing correctly. Sometimes those things go out the window, but in your approach, because different kind of things are needed for different songs. But I've always been on top of that, and teaching kind of helps me keep on track as well. When I'm teaching someone and giving them a lesson of how to sing correctly and how to do things the right way, it reminds me. It keeps me on my toes as far as singing, doing the same thing. So that's the only thing that I can think of. I mean,
Sure.
Other than that,
Well, I like
keep plugging along.
Sure. Well, I like the cover to this new CD, Old Habits Die Hard. It's very representative of your career. Obviously, with your Dimino logo, has a very angel-esque design to it,
right.
And the fact that you've got your angel shoes hanging on the mic stand there.
That mic stand's been with me since the first tour. It's 1975.
Right.
The tour I had that mic stand.
Sure.
The same one. Yeah.
So it's kind of a nod to the old school in a way, and the title of the album is very appropriate.
Yeah, and I thought it's kind of cool that if people don't know the angel thing, then it's not that big a deal. It's still an album cover. And the interesting part is for people that do know that they'll get it, and it's
sure.
It was kind of a subtle kind of way of putting it out there,
Absolutely. Well, Frank, I got to tell you, it's a pleasure speaking with you again. I'm glad you took the time to speak to us here on the Classic Metal Show again. And is there anything else about this new release that you want people to know about?
Yeah, I mean, go out and get it. I mean, that's the big thing I want. I want people to hear it. That's the main thing. It's been a hard thing to try and get it out there. So I'm glad that you're playing it, and I hope more people will play it, and I hope people take a listen to it and just sit down and play it. I mean, there's so many people out there that just listen to one song and that's it. Because with iTunes and everything, it's so easy to just, that song, I like that song. Let me get that song. What I'd like to do is, you get the album and listen to the whole album. I mean, it's, that's the proper way to do it. So, I mean, I'd love for everyone just to listen to the album.
Sure, absolutely. Well, where can people find out about Frank Dimino and your whereabouts and what you're doing and, so on and so forth?
I do have I have a website, frankdimino.com. I have a Facebook musician page, and I think there's an official group page on Facebook. So there's a lot of stuff out there, and I'm retooling my vinyl tattoo page because I have some thoughts about doing some new stuff with the vinyl tattoo guys. So I'm retooling that. So So you can check those. The Facebook page is Vinyl Tattoo. The Facebook page, like I said, there's a group page and there's a musician page. And again, the website is frankdimino.com.
Sure. And you're also involved with a charitable benefit type thing for cystic fibrosis?
Yes, that's yes. Ken's daughter has the disease, and I'm always reminded about it, how the struggles that she has with it. Seeing her and talking with her, and it's really a very debilitating disease. So I try as much as I can to talk about it, and whenever I can do something to help, whether it's putting the name of the website on my album or promoting it any other way, I try and do it. So it's really it's really a debilitating disease, and any help towards charities and websites that they have, like the one on the back of my album cover, is greatly appreciated.
Sure. Well, if you want to send a donation out and support this, it's the Transitional Pulmonary Immunology Research Center. That is tpirc.org. So go over there and donate, and Frank will come to your house and kick your ass if you don't.
There you go.
All right, Frank. Well, it's been a pleasure speaking with you again, my friend. And we always let the artist pick a closing tune from the interview from the new CD. So, what do you think we should play? And tell us a quick story about it.
Okay, let's see. Well, what should we play on this one? How about I Can't Stop Loving You?
Okay, what's the story behind that?
Well, there's just a short, quick story about that. When we were doing that, Paul and I were in the studio, and so we thought about that middle part, doing a little bit kind of like a little a Zeppelin reference. So we did a little bit of a Kashmir kind of thing for the solo, and that little middle part was our thing for A Whole Lot of Love. It's our little pre-echo thing. I've always loved doing it. I love doing that song when we do it with Vinyl Tattoo. So I got that little pre-echo that comes when the vocal when the song breaks down. You hear a little bit of the vocal before the main vocal. So so that was kind of fun putting that together.
Sure, absolutely. All right, well, go pick up the new Dimino release. It's called Old Habits Die Hard, and here's a cut from that. This is I Can't Stop Loving You, exclusively here on your Classic Metal Show.